$680 billion. That's the estimated value of the geospatial market. It is forecasted to more than double by 2030 to $1.4 trillion. Today, 5 million workers perform geospatial services in their daily work. Becoming a certified GIS professional, or GISP, demonstrates that you have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to perform high-quality geospatial work. It is a credential that will make you stand out from the crowd.
So the GISP is a professional certification. It actually stands for GIS Professional. And so, like many industries across the United States, the GISP is a professional certification that is unique to the geospatial community. Within the United States, there's over 1,600 different types of certifications and licensure. So what we do is not any different than any other professional industry. It's just that we're one of the very few that operate in the geospatial space. Professional certification within the geospatial industry itself is relatively new. As mentioned before, our certification in our institute is just coming up on 20 years of existence. And so professional certification within the geospatial industry is, again, a little bit unique and a little new, but so is the geospatial industry itself. It's only been around in mainstream for about 30 to 40 years. And so these first steps and these activities, such as professional certification, are a natural process and a natural part of the maturation of our professional industry. The GISP itself is designed for professionals with 4 years of professional experience. So you have to have been working in the industry for some time in order to earn that professional certification. However, you can start the process at any point in your career, and we encourage folks to start that process early before they have the 4 years of experience, because you have to do 3 essential things to become a GISP. One is you have to build a portfolio, and that portfolio is going to look at your activities in education, experience, and contributions back to the profession. And so we don't require you to do specific or certain things in each of these categories. Rather, we say you need to invest in yourself, and you do that through education. And there are multiple ways to do that. We say you have to work within the geospatial industry. There's a myriad of jobs and there's a myriad of opportunities. Again, we don't tell you what you need to do specifically. We just say that you need to work within the geospatial industry in these areas and have 4 years of experience. And then with contributions to the profession, that's giving back to the job that employs you. And so again, we have a number of ways that you can contribute back to the profession. And you don't have to do every single one that's listed, but rather you find a way to invest back, whether it's through participation in committees or national organizations, helping volunteer for events like GIS Day, like this day right here, belonging to those professional associations, publications, and the like. So again, that's how you build your portfolio. The second piece is to take and pass the geospatial knowledge exam. Our geospatial knowledge exam is based on the geospatial body of knowledge, and it tests against 45 knowledge, skill, and ability areas. These areas are subjects that all geospatial professionals should be knowledgeable in. So things like cartography, projections, database analysis. We don't expect a GIS professional to know and understand all of the geospatial industry, but we know and we expect you to know and understand the basic concepts that all GIS applications have in common. The third piece in becoming a GISP is to agree to abide by a geospatial code of ethics. This geospatial code of ethics was written many years ago, and it was produced by a number of professionals in the geospatial industry, and it was built upon ethics that all professionals agree to abide by and participate in. But it was designed specifically for the geospatial industry and all of the challenges that we have that are unique to our industry as it relates to privacy, ethics, and the like. And so we expect that all GISPs will agree to abide by our geospatial code of ethics, one that we share throughout our industry, to help move our industry forward. When you complete all three of these pieces, you become certified as a GISP for a 3-year period. You can then renew or recertify your certification by going through a much reduced process. You're still required to submit that portfolio, and in that portfolio, you have to invest in yourself. Again, you have to continue to educate, and you have to invest back in the profession, and those are those contributions that we mentioned. And then also, you must continue to agree to abide by a geospatial code of ethics. Misconception 1, a GISP is not worth the effort. Investing in yourself and investing back into your community, your professional community, is not a waste of your time or effort. Even if you don't complete the GISP process, going through the steps is going to help you grow as a professional, and it's going to help move our industry forward. That having been said, the advantages of becoming a GISP include the differentiation of yourself compared to your other professionals. You've demonstrated that you're willing to make an effort to do those investments, both in yourself and your profession. And that helps you stand out, especially when employers are looking at you as an opportunity for their workforce. We also know that GISPs make more than their contemporaries. We have salary studies that suggest that. And we know that from a recent survey, 85% of all employers support their GISPs. So if you want to set yourself apart, if you want to demonstrate behaviors that help enrich both yourself and our profession, then a GISP is definitely worth your time.
As far as benefits for the GISP, I think they're really numerous in quantity. I've been in the geospatial industry now for over 17 years, and about half of that has been as a GISP. And prior to the GISP coming out, like, there wasn't really a gold standard for what constituted a professional geospatial individual, within the industry. And I work at ADOT right now, Arizona Department of Transportation, and ADOT is an agency of largely engineers, and engineers have their own professional certification called a PE, professional engineer. And so when the GISP came out, I saw that as an opportunity to showcase that I'm a professional within my respective industry and field of study. And so the benefits for me was that, overnight you put that on your business card and your email information, and you become so much more legitimate in the eyes of other professionals within a field of work, because when you have those 4 letters behind your name, it just elevates you in so many ways within a conversation.
I benefited from the GISP because it got me more involved with ERISA. And one of the things that happened with that is that I ended up becoming a Vanguard cabinet member. That involvement started out with the portfolio edits and reviews, and then went on to further with ERISA. I was honored with the Barbara Hirsch Service Award and Vanguard Cabinet Member of the Year. And what that meant was that I got to go to the GIS Leadership Academy free tuition wise. I paid for my room and board, but at the hotel and everything. But that was a huge honor for me to be able to attend and do that.
As academic and having a PhD, I thought that I need some industry certification to fortify my knowledge, and also to say that I have credentials in the actual industry base too. So it helped to have an industry certification as a GISP. So it says that I'm a professional and I have professional knowledge of GIS and not just an academic knowledge of GIS.
After leaving my role with the Platte County Assessor's Office, was immediately snagged up by a major consulting firm out of DC to work with the federal government out the USDA on another contract that they had. And one of the requirements of the contract was that the person hold a master's degree, or in place of that, hold a GISP certification to serve in that role as GIS subject matter expert.
Misconception number 2. The GISP exam is too difficult, and it's unfair that some folks don't have to take the exam to get their GISP. So part one of that is that the misconception that the exam is too difficult. Our exam is based on the geospatial body of knowledge. This is a widely accepted body of knowledge for the geospatial profession. You can go look that information up online. We publish our exam blueprint. So we tell you where all the questions come from. We just don't tell you what the questions are. Our exam is designed to be rigorous but fair. And our exam is created against all accreditation standards for professional testing. So when you take our exam, it's met those standards, and it's no different than any other type of professional exam in any profession. Our pass rates are slowly increasing, which tells us that we are doing a good job of administering the exam, and more people pass the exam than fail. So is it difficult? Yes. Is it impossible? No. Is it fair? Yes. Is it challenging? Yes. And is it appropriate for the industry? Absolutely. And that's why we do it that way. There's also a misconception about GISPs that earn their GISP without taking the exam. When the certification first came out, it was a portfolio-only based certification. The exam was added in 2015. So there are individuals that became a GISP without having to take the exam. They met all of the criteria that was in place at the time to become a GISP. So they've earned it, just as the individuals that have earned all the criteria past 2015 with the exam have also earned their GISP. But here's the key difference. The portfolio was significantly more difficult pre-exam. What was qualified as acceptable in the portfolio was a much narrower definition back then than it is now. And so the reality is we could indeed ask all of the pre-GISPs, the pre-exam GISPs, to take the exam, but at the same time, we would have to go back and ask that everybody that submitted their portfolio during the testing phase would likely see some of those contributions and some of those activities taken away. So the reality is we had a process that was fair to both the pre-exam GISPs as well as the post-exam GISPs. And each GISP has met the criteria and the qualifications that were in place at the time of the professional testing. This is how it's done in the industry, and we will continue to follow those best practices.
The purpose of any professional certification is to assess the candidate's skills and abilities in a certain field. The candidate has to demonstrate a certain level of proficiency to pass the exam. I believe that the exam adds value to GISP certification, as it shows that each candidate has a solid knowledge base. I took my exam after working full-time for almost 5 years. I had not studied or taken any exams for a long time. Therefore, I knew I had to study hard to pass the exam. The exam also covers different aspects of GIS, so I had to review different knowledge areas. 6 months before the exam, I checked the knowledge areas on GIS CI website. That helped me to identify my strengths and weaknesses. Since I did not have a background in geography, I had to pay more attention to those basic concepts. I started studying from the unofficial study guide at first. Then I searched for specific topics and studied from various material from different universities. For the last month, I studied more intensely and also practiced the exam questions. At that time, there was only a 50 question static test available for practice. I took it twice. The first time it showed me that I knew the answers, but I was marking wrong answers in a rush. So I decided to read the questions carefully and mark the correct answers. I also decided to use the whole exam time and not hurry. I think this helped me in the final exam. Based on my experience, the exam is not easy, but it's not too hard if you study and prepare well. If you think you can pass the exam based on your experience in the field only, think again and start studying.
The GISP exam is difficult, but it is not impossible. If you have GIS experience, it is something you can pass. But it's not something you can just decide, I'm going to be a GISP next week and run in and take the exam and pass it. It is something you do need to study for. I've been working in GIS for many years, and so it's been quite a while since I was in college, and I have narrowed my GIS expertise in that time. So there were things I needed to review before taking the exam, and I recommend that everyone does that.
So starting with the exam is intimidating. You have to study and get materials together, and it takes a lot of time. And it's a 4-hour exam, so you're expecting the worst. And some of us don't have the background in education, and we fell into GIS, or some of us do have the background in education but don't have the professional experience where you learn a lot of things. This is that opportunity to fill that gap between the two, whichever one you feel you're lacking in, and then also experience other parts of GIS while studying that you may not necessarily use in a day-to-day basis or in your career as of yet.
I've studied for a good chunk of 3 months, at least every day. Just kind of carve out a block every day if you can, and just routine, just kind of work it into your life, your daily life, and people around you, and yeah, it'll work out. And it really, and I guess the number one tip for me would be it's never too early to start studying, so that's really I think the best I can give any aspiring GISP applicant.
Misconception number 3, it's too expensive to get a GISP. There are costs that are associated with getting your GISP. There are initial costs associated with the test and the portfolio review, and then there's an annual maintenance fee that comes with it. Our costs are based on our expenses. We're a not-for-profit organization, so we need to bring in enough money to cover our expenses and pay our bills. We do not have any other source of income other than the exam and the recertification fees. We keep our fees as low as possible, and our fees are consistent with other professional certifications. And so we do everything we can to keep those costs as minimal and as low as possible. What I would encourage all of you to do is to discuss this with your employer. We found that 85% of all employers will indeed pay either part or all of the fees associated with professional certification. So talk to them and get their input and see if they will not help support you in this endeavor. It's in their best interest to support their employees, because you're growing as an employee and you're becoming a better asset for your employer. Remember, though, an investment in professional certification is an investment in yourself.
There is a cost associated with taking the GISP exam and with submitting your portfolio, and that can feel like a burden. However, you should reach out to your employer regarding that. I know my employer is very supportive of having GISPs. It reflects well on the organization to have GISPs on staff. So they were very supportive of this. They reimburse us for the cost of both the exam and the portfolio. So reach out and see if that's a possibility for you.
So as far as getting a GISP being too expensive, it's really too expensive to not get it. In one situation, I picked up a role with the USDA at the federal government level, where I was actively looking for a new role after leaving another one, and the only other roles in the area that I was looking, without having to relocate around the country or the world even, were just smaller analyst roles. And I picked up a rather large role with the USDA as GIS subject matter expert, and found my salary elevated considerably. So again, it is too expensive to not do it.
Misconception 4. I have to submit all my maps for your portfolio. The portfolio that you submit in the process of becoming a GISP is not the portfolio that you might think of when interviewing for a job or a project, where you're going to list and submit all the projects and the maps that you've worked on. The GISP portfolio is designed to show us that you've met certain goals in education, experience, and contributions to the profession. We don't ask you to submit your work. Rather, we ask that you submit that you've accomplished activities in each of these three categories. And so we're just going to ask you what those activities were, when you did them, and what they represented. So get some background information on that. We're not looking for your maps. We're not looking for your papers. Rather, we're just looking that you've invested in yourself and you've invested in the geospatial community. Another misconception related to this one is that I can't start my portfolio until I have 4 years of experience or I've taken the exam. And the reality is you can start your portfolio at any stage of your career. We encourage you to start right now. It doesn't cost you anything, and it allows you to start adding the activities and the events that you complete as you do them, rather than waiting until you have the test completed or you've been in the industry for a number of years. You can do it as the things happen rather than waiting to the last minute and trying to do it all at once. So I encourage you to get online today, gisci.org, create your account, and start the process.
So my recommendation for those of you that are trying to do it for the first time, dot your I's and cross your T's as far as provide as much documentation as you have to make sure that that process is as easy as possible, because that initial time to get all that content over to them will save you time in the long run.
Getting the portfolio together can be a little bit of a difficult task. I know that the first time I did it, I wasn't sure where to start. And once I got rolling, I wasn't really sure where to end. I'd been to several conferences, involved in several groups and seminars, and had done a lot of independent projects on my own that really, I wasn't sure where it fit. I talked quite a bit with Bill and others within the GISCI community to find out what fit where, and found out I actually had quite a breadth of information that I could add to, and almost too much actually when I got down to it.
I think that one of the things that's been very helpful to me in getting my GISP is that there are a lot of different ways and a lot of different categories in which, or there are a lot of different categories in which you can participate and you can earn credit for. Instead of thinking about maybe some of the traditional things that we would do, try to think outside the box and maybe talk to other folks about what they're doing to achieve their points, and how can you use that and translate that to something that you're already doing or that you would like to do. It doesn't have to be about the things that everyone else is doing. And I think that's really important to keep in mind as you are working through the process of either certifying or recertifying.
Misconception number 5. It's too difficult for me to maintain my GISP, especially trying to get contributions to the profession. Maintaining your GISP is actually very easy if you remain active in the geospatial community. You actually only need to do 2 things in the portfolio: education and contributions to the profession. You don't actually need to be working in the industry to maintain your GISP. And a number of our professionals continue to maintain their GISP even though they've retired or left the industry. You also have to educate yourself if you want to stay current in our industry. It's changing every day. So you should be educating yourself. You should be getting education regardless of whether you're GISP or not, because it's very important for you to remain relevant as a professional. As for those contributions to the profession, that is your opportunity to be present in our profession. Those are relatively easy points to get if you're willing to be a part of our profession and a part of our community. The easiest way to get your contribution points is to join an organization. You can join a national or international organization or a state or local regional organizations. Some organizations, like our 4-member organizations, ERISA, NSGIC, UCGIS, and AAG, are very prominent organizations that require a membership fee. I'd encourage you to get involved with those. but you can get involved with local groups that don't require those membership fees. I'm a member of the Mid-America GIS Consortium. I've been a part of that for many years. It's a volunteer organization. I contribute back through Magic by helping run their conferences. I do seminars and presentations at the conferences and symposiums that they hold. And I've been a member of the board of directors for a number of years. These are all activities that I do for promoting the profession. And they're all activities that I benefit greatly from, both as a professional in terms of the job that I do, but also in terms of the geospatial community. It's allowed me to meet friends and fellow professionals. It's allowed me to share information and help them, and it's allowed them to share information and help me. So getting involved and being a part of our geospatial community is as simple as joining an organization and attending a meeting once a month, once a quarter. It's as simple as participating in a GIS day activity. It's as simple as helping your local school or church map out a playground, a cemetery, or a park or a trail. Being a part of the community is very important for your growth as an individual and as the profession as a whole.
Being involved in the GIS community will easily get you the points you need to certify or recertify. I find that attendance to a GIS-related conference every year can attain the most points. Being involved with a professional organization, from being a part of the board to signing up to present or moderate, can get you the education and contribution points needed. Your place of employment may also have a users group. Or if you struggle being the single GIS person in your organization, there are state-level associations, and you always have ERISA. From the Leadership Academy to a local training in your subject matter related to upcoming technology. If you know a person who has already obtained their GISP, then you have a connection and a resource to use. So don't hesitate to reach out.
If you look hard enough, I mean, you know, your region will have chapters of GIS chapters and GIS organizations that allow you to explore those, options to get more points. Have a goal of getting points by making a poster presentation or a speaking presentation, or volunteering to help crowdsource the open source mapping for disaster zones, that kind of thing.
When you're actually looking to find those little pieces, what those contributions are that you've done, you have to step back and look at what you've been involved with in the community, great and small. Even the tiny pieces, like a small project I was involved with, 3 people just putting together all the locations of all the fountains in Kansas City. It was a fun little project, and we were trying 3 or 4 different platforms out for the presentation of the data. But it still mattered for the greater good, because this was presented to a lot of different people that had never really seen a map of every single fountain in Kansas City before.
I think the thing that a lot of people do is they get sort of wound up about, oh my gosh, I've got to get enough points in this category and enough points in this category and enough points in this category. And the reality is that if you're participating in the community, you are getting points, and you can find ways to apply the things that you would be doing anyway to your GISP. And it's not to say that you shouldn't do other things as well in order to, gain points. But I think there's a lot less work that has to go into it than you think. Be a leader, be a mentor, and do some activities that really help to support and build the GIS community. And bonus, you can earn points for that. Find the things that you enjoy doing within the community, and how can you find an organization or a group to participate in that realm.
At all facets of your career, advocate for yourself to get your face out there, and whether that's attending things on your own dime, or advocating for your agency, public or private, to send you to things, so that way you can understand what the trends are within the industry. Because if there's an industry that is constantly evolving, it's GIS. And what I tell my team is, if they're not constantly learning and being a lifelong learner within GIS, we're falling behind. Because the way GIS was a year ago is not what it is today, and it's not what it's going to be in a year from now.